Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we dive into the upcoming DEA hearing that's been set for December 2nd. News broke on Halloween regarding that hearing, and there's a preliminary order and some other papers filed by the DEA. That's going to be the crux of our deep dive. It was not the Halloween trick or treat that anybody in the movement was asking for, but the administrative law judge issued a preliminary order. It's about 10 pages. We're going to go through all of it, and then don't forget to click the bell, click the bell, give us a like or subscribe, and you'll get notice of when we go live for the December 2nd hearing. For more on that, let's bring on our co-host and then also bring up the preliminary order.
Tom's like, no Sunday show. And then they pull you back in with regulation or rules.
Yeah, no Sunday show. It's before the election. There won't be any. What do you mean there's shit? And so, I'm flying back from Arizona. Shout out to everybody in Arizona, Mita, those guys. If you are going to be at MJ Biz, you should check us out over at the Mita area where we'll be discussing other processors. So there's going to be a lot of interviews with processors, those types of licenses, not the growers, not the retailers, the other type of license. But this was unexpected and I didn't see it coming. It just kind of dropped. But it was October 31st. The preliminary order was issued and it says, I am the administrative law judge. Great. And then he defines himself as the ALJ. At the end of this, his name is Edward R. Rooney. Oh, wait, no, that was the principal from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's John Mulrooney, not Rooney. And he is the second, if anybody wanted to know. There's more than one of him. But October 31st was when this was entered. A lot of legalese kind of on it. So we'll break down some of it. And then we're going to go over all of the people that get to testify and the types of rules that they are. So let's start with what it really kind of says. They may have this hearing and they've requested this hearing. And then they have these regulations for what an interested person is, and that is any person adversely affected or aggrieved by any rule or proposed rule issuable under 21 USC 811, which is the aspect of the Controlled Substances Act that says marijuana is, well, that's not where it says marijuana Schedule 1. It's where it says the Attorney General can reschedule and even drop off, provided that he has the authority to. But with marijuana, we don't, because of international law.
One of the things I think that why we are adults, you and I, or adult Americans who have been trying to change this damn policy for years. One of the things, like, I think how our powers join forces, you're a lawyer. You actually are active in learning about the civics of things. Whereas when I was 18 and it was time to vote, it was the Clinton era. Right. And I remember fucking all media taken over by a blowjob. Right now this new media's got a different blowjob being covered. But back then it was that. And to me, it was like, why? I don't care. Right. I just didn't care about politics or nothing. But you have been a lifelong adult. I mean, for lack of a better word, when it comes to like civics and politics. But one of the things that I saw, because I have so much respect for you, and other lawyers, which is like the American thing, right? There's just like business layers of what it means to be an adult American. And one of the things that I saw with other lawyers is like this is like a much ado about nothing, right? Where this is just part of the process, right? There's the whole legislative type of things. There's things that you and I think that we should be fundamentally right automatically, but then there's the parliamentary procedure, the thing that McConnell is good at. What's your take on? Do you think this is a stressful moment, or is this just another? This is what it is, because as far as the process goes, it was unexpected for some. Who was it? The One Drug blog, the lawyer dude who had the lawsuit that
On drugs. Yeah, that's a Substack. Yeah, I don't have enough time to do a Substack as well with all the crap that I'm trying to get done, but it is a good Substack. Most lawyers don't operate the business. They just are in the business trying to generate as many hours as they can. And so let's get back to what happened this past week. So on October 29th, 2 letters from the DEA administrator were hand carried to the DEA Office of Administrative Law Judgments. And so they've attached those. That's where we have the 25 participants. And then they have I don't necessarily agree with the naming conventions like that are
Hmm.
here, designated participants or DPs, and then here they use designated participants or sought to be DPs. I'm like, okay, look, when you're defining things, define it as one thing, so it's like the least confusing it can be.
Yeah.
But that's me being just like really, really anal. And that's something that you kind of need in a lawyer, especially if you're like in the highly regulated cannabis field. With hemp, you just need somebody to be like, yeah, why
Well,
not? But
definitions,
uh,
they're important.
definitionals are quite important. But how do they satisfy the interested person test? And so this is the thing that they had. They had the participant list designated a list of enumerated entities and individuals as DPs. No indication of the four corners of the document as to whether the participants support or oppose the notice of proposed rulemaking, or how the participants satisfy the interested person test defined in the regulations. And so the PL, which is the participation letter,
Mm.
contains only a list of persons and organizations accompanied by one or more email addresses without the benefits of notices, appearance, addresses, or even phone numbers. While the NPM directed the Office of Administrative Law Judge to serve with a courtesy copy of the hearing, the GNOH, which again is probably up here, General Notice of Hearing, that's probably, which was abbreviated GNOH, where
Well,
that abbreviation, I'm looking for the paren that ties it to it, but whatever. I'm not trying to crib this guy's notes. He had to go
well,
trick or treating with his kids just like everybody else. And so
but
that's, yeah.
how's the DP defined? The dependents, right? Because isn't that part of the issues, right? We have yahoos like Kevin Sabat, and then we
Mhm,
have long life people trying to change policy like normal, who
mhm.
are except I wanted to apply, right? If I wanted to pay for the plane ticket and play, this is why rules don't happen so fast for average Americans because it costs money to go to Washington D.C. and wait your turn. That's all you're doing. What are you investing in? You're not investing in anything that's going to have a good ROI. There's no actual business, but you're just trying to implement policy that could maybe affect your personal life somehow. But how is it defined, like to where I can, as a citizen, get a chance to speak? Because there's Canadians speaking, right, man. There's people
Well,
of
yes, there are some
non-interest.
Canadians speaking, but that gets back to what the administrative law judge is really trying to zero in on, and that's in his provision right here. Let's bring that up. Bring up the doc. The equally directive is a language, the regulations that requires this interested person demonstrate that he, she, it would be adversely affected or aggrieved by the proposed scheduling action. And so in this respect, the entire industry that wants Schedule 3, because it would be good for the industry and it would create medical marijuana nationwide for the first time in the history of our country, how are they adversely affected or aggrieved? Now, SAM, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, that gets paid because people get sent to rehab facilities that Sam's owners have, and then they get cash from that, and then they use that cash to fund Sam to make sure that marijuana stays illegal so that their rehab facilities keep making coin. I understand how they're adversely affected. Sheriffs, I used to be able to arrest people and take their shit. I can't do that no more. I understand how they
No
are
way, dude.
adversely affected or aggrieved. But the NCIA, we're going to go over the list of everybody who's going to be appearing. And so the National Cannabis Industry Association will be appearing.
Yeah,
How are they aggrieved? I guess
I
if the rulemaking stays in Schedule 1, they're hurt because then they aren't going to be able to increase their roles and their membership and then lobby more effectively for not just rescheduling but full legalization if Congress wants to
well,
participate.
isn't that like the Susan Corman Foundation? Say they could get the cure for cancer. Oh, I'll
Oh
be
yeah.
aggrieved because we got to close. But like, how is it like law enforcement? Like, I just don't agree with that statement. Like law enforcement being effective. Oh, I can't fucking manipulate somebody else anymore. I can't have a back door to your life. This is a silly talk. It's a whole fundamental American thing. That should be the first and foremost, I think. What do you call it? A requirement, requisite for
Mhm.
speaking at this moment in time that's about to change history for millions of people. But I don't know, man. So yeah, continue on. I'm sorry, man.
Well, it's just the preliminary order continues and saying that these APA, that's the Administrative Procedure Act, they have terms of that law that you must follow. And they do kind of quote it right here, the Administrative Procedure Act. Here's the actual, no, that's not the actual site to it. That's the site to Controlled Substances Act that references it because it is being rescheduled. And then under the APA, the proponent of an order has the burden of proof. And so the DEA allowed this hearing to happen. And so that proponent has the burden of proof at the hearing. The proponent for the issuance, amendment, or repeal of any rule shall have the burden of proof. So just as the agent carries the burden of proof to prevail on its proposed rulemaking, those amongst the designated participants seeking active participation in this hearing must establish that they made a timely application. That's easy because there was a cutoff date. And then they're eligible as an interested person. Now, that may be some type of evidentiary findings that the administrative law judge would have to have. And they might be like, no, normal, you just don't have standing to leave a comment, but I'm not sure. The record currently contains no requests, notices of appearance, or correspondence between the agency and the DPs or those who sought that status. As the record currently stands, although the agency has fixed a December 2nd hearing date, there's no way to discern from the present record which ones support or oppose the notice of proposed rulemaking. And to effectively preside over this hearing, additional information needs to be furnished.
What is this the quorum? Is this something that's going to be? Is this part of the process, right? Like kind of back to should we look at shenanigans, right? Because as part of a process, is this was expected by a judge to analyze like actual participants in the question process? Because even though there's 25 selected applicants, we're still thinning this herd out, right? Because we thought the second was going to be the hearing. We thought that was going to be the at
Some
least.
people, some people thought that there was going to be no hearing, but the DEA trying to slow this down, which again, like
Mhm.
if the DEA really wants to do something, they can go shut down Diet Coke weed that's just
Mm.
raging interstate right now. They spray terps on and THC that they make in a lab on everything. But they now have until November 12th. That's the next big date. And so tune into the show on November 12th. Thumbs up, leave us a
Yes.
comment. We'll come up more in your feed. But that is when they need to show one, two, three, four, five, six things on this order that have to be provided to the court no later than 2 p.m. Eastern on November 12th. File this tribunal a brief notice, which will include the following information. One, name, address, phone number, and general nature, principal mission of the DP's practice, profession, or business. Two, notice of appearance for the counsels of record that will be representing the DP at the hearing. Three, the date that the request for hearing the date that the request for hearing or participation was properly filed with the DEA, because there was a cutoff date. I want to say it was September 26th or 30th. And then four, how the DP will be sufficiently adversely or aggrieved by the proposed scheduling action to qualify as an interested person under the regulations. Therefore, well, let's go to 5 and 6 before we do analysis. 5, whether the DP supports or opposes the rescheduling action the DEA seeks in its NPRM, that's the notice of
Mhm.
proposed rulemaking. And then 6, any known conflicts of interest with DEA or DOJ leadership or personnel that requires disclosure. Those must be put before this judge by November 12th.
Okay, so my question then is this judge so the hearing per se overall like what when rescheduling happens, right? Because this is like watching Austin Powers. Remember when the car was about to run him over and they're just like,
The really slow one.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
because that's what's coming to him. I mean, in the end, for the citizen, for the average American, this has to be identified as medicine first, most that way I'll protect it, right? Like we're protecting the it is medicine option right now, right? Like Prop 250. People, I think it's funny that people are like, "Oh, we're here because hemp." Like Trump legalized hemp. No, Prop 215 showed the fucking world that like everything's okay. Like people can be adults, responsible, and consume and carry on. Now, the fact that it's still a hindrance for, say, even like a security background, like this is the dumb shit. Like we need to sort the dumb shit out so we can be a better country and go forward. Hell, our producer can tell you he got knocked down in rank several times. I've seen guys get kicked out. Like it's just dumb shit, and it doesn't help us. It doesn't help you as an American. All that stuff. So like It's happening. Because in the end, at this hearing, it comes down to somebody in the DA, right? It's not a judge deciding it's rescheduling. It's going to be a DA administrator, right? Is it going to be Ann Milgram? Is that the person
Yeah,
who only done it? Yeah. So like in
she
the
should
end,
be there in theory, but then, or the DEA's lawyer that is representing Ms. Milgram would be there. Like when we sue state agencies, the leader of the state agency is never there. It's somebody from the attorney general's office that's there. Okay, but that is the other stuff that we are going to be breaking down and doing more of a deep dive into. The people, the 25 people that were disclosed
mm,
by the DEA as being these NP or these DPs. And so, how that DP will be adversely affected or aggrieved is something that we're going to go over here. And of
mm,
course, they have a little bit more housekeeping. They want to say that by the same date, the November 12th date, of councils of records will get their stuff on file, and also any known conflicts of interest. And then this is interesting. They have the hearing date, which these footnotes down here, there it goes. The potentially high number of participants anticipated, limited representatives. And then the LSL, I think that's the live streaming, regarding live
mhm.
streaming, will afford those physically outside the courtroom to opportunity to observe the proceeding. Naturally, witnesses will be
Oh
admitted
yeah.
to the courtroom by testimony. No cell phones will be allowed. Highest level of decorum must be maintained at all times. All
Mm,
representatives appearing will be live, not virtual, and all representatives must plan to arrive sufficiently early or have security processing through the DEA Visitor Center. So yeah, don't forget to bring all your THCA vapes to the hearing. And additionally, helpful information regarding the DEA administrative process can be found at the Office of the OLJ Legal. I'm not sure what OLJ stands for. I'm not familiar enough with federal practice because I don't live
yeah.
in Virginia.
S-
But it
Yeah.
does appear that we are going to have a live stream, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. Now, don't forget, hard
Department of
copy
Labor.
must be served in triplicate
Yeah.
because it's the government. So we need you to make two copies.
OALJ is Office of Administrative Law Judges, Department of
Okay,
Labor.
there we
So
go.
this is what's happening right now. Such an important thing. I think it's sad that it doesn't reach headlines. The
Hmm,
quality of life
yeah.
that's about to change. Yes, it's political. That's how we got here. But right now, there's a good side that is the adults, and there's the other side that, well, there it is. More about. We want to get more into 25, or do you want to get more into the requirements with those?
Ah, okay. Well, for that, I'm going to take a small break to do a commercial for our
Right.
sponsor. And then I say we get into the 25 because we've already done a fairly deep dive as to what's going to happen. And the thing we really have to remember on December 2nd is that it is somewhat of a nothing burger. There's not really
Mm,
going to be any evidence heard on the second. It should be a fairly short hearing. It really is just going to discuss about why the person is qualified to provide that testimony to the ALJ. However, this video is brought to you by our sponsor, Collateral Base. Are you an operator trying to become an MSO or an MSO trying to get another license in a new state? Head on over to collateralbase.com and get in touch with us. They are we are on a tear right now. We have not lost a lottery for our clients in well over a year. Miggy and I even won in Illinois last time, and now we're on a license and we're standing it up, and we're going to start operating that hopefully in the coming year. The people at Collateral Base have been helping other cannabis companies do this for almost 5 years, and they can help your company too. And now back to the DEA hearing. Who's going to be appearing? Can go
I just
to
want to add.
the you just start buying weed online and selling it at spray packs.
Mm,
But then you have the problem of your city might start shutting you down. The federal government, like they are giving the natural product this much tomfoolery. Do you
yeah.
really think that IHDs and the hemp that gets you high is going to last much longer if they're giving the natural product this much tomfoolery? Yeah, fucking right.
Well,
But
high hemp's filling too. Like it's more people are getting sick. A
yeah,
regulated market has more safety measures and standards, which this is part of the process. And this fundamental making this medicine scheduled 3 is huge. Like I get deschedule. Like like I would love to say that argument all day, but I wonder what no shit Sherlock, dude. Like no shit. We should like just be able to have seeds and but you know what? It's not how it works. It's not how making change and enabling average citizens works, right? And you're going to have people who even so many people, that are what would you say, gaslighting, right? Everybody follow the money type bullshit, right? We've been fundamentally just trying to have change for empowerment, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, no, there's a lot right for it. The problem is money gets things changed. And so
Hmm.
that's one of the reasons why the hemp industry's gotten as large as it is. And they haven't done anything because the government moves very slowly. And they had this huge loophole that they just didn't even understand was there. But let's go
Yeah,
back to the document and see
yeah,
who the people are that are going to be speaking, how those people are going to be speaking, and we'll kind of scroll back up because this is what Ann Milgram sent to the administrative law judge on Monday, basically, I think was October 28th. And by that Thursday, Halloween, the 31st, she got a pretty thick order asking and saying like why these people are and how do they satisfy this definition under those regulations. And again, the definitions under those regulations is any person adversely affected or aggravated by any proposed rule or any rule or proposed rule issued under this section of the Controlled Substances Act that we are using to reschedule cannabis.
mhm.
So that's what they're looking for. And the DEA, in terrible compliance with their own laws, and it just kind of like shows that maybe they don't care. Either way, she requested that this hearing be held. After she reviewed the request for hearing on the NPM, she authorized the hearing to be conducted in accordance with the APA, the
Well,
CSA, and the Drug Enforcement Administration regulations. And then, pursuant to her authority, she reviewed the request for the hearing, and these participants will be at the hearing. And then it just says Village Farms International. Shane Pennington is a lawyer out east in the DC metro area of Porter
hmm,
Wright. And how does that by itself give the judge any idea of why they are a person that has jurisdiction to be able to provide testimony? That's really
well,
what he was getting to in his preliminary order, and what we'll find out more of on November 12th. But this company evidently is a major agricultural player that has expanded into cannabis, and they probably favor rescheduling so that they can make more money.
this document is a prime example, Exhibit A, of why nothing happens fast in government. Right? This is fundamental how we're getting changed, folks. This is how it'll be identified as medicine, where you don't have to like worry about a piss test, where there will be fundamental rights for workers, transportation rights, and it just the trickle down of holy crap. Like this is it right here, folks. Like that's yeah, deschedule, but no, this is the way.
Well, let's see who else is on this list. Number two, the NCIA, the National Cannabis Industry Association, and that is going to be Aaron Smith. He will be, and Michelle Rutter Freiberg, Director of Government Relations. And they gave their two email addresses. But how are they aggravated by this notice of rulemaking? There's no evidence on that. And those other elements that the judge requested be filed by November 12th. They probably support rescheduling. It's the NCIA, it's the lobby
Hmm.
group that's for them. And then
Oh yeah.
the people underneath that, American Academy of Hospice and Palliative Medicine, they probably support rescheduling as well. It's a medical group
Yeah.
that supports cannabis rescheduling to promote its use in palliative care and expand research into potential benefits for patients with chronic conditions.
Oh yeah. You can definitely tell the pros, right? Canada's bioscience. Somebody in the business, like it definitely
Mhm.
the rule change and all that stuff affects you. What's the next ones?
Hemp for victory, which is
Oh.
kind of a question mark. They could be like, don't move it to schedule 3. That would be terrible for our business. We are directly competing against marijuana, and the more restricted it is, the better for us. But they probably
Mm,
support rescheduling. And then there's the cannabis ombudsman of the state of Connecticut,
funny.
Erin Gorman Kirk. They probably also support rescheduling, as Connecticut is a legal state. One of the
Yeah.
collateral basis clients from the lottery round they did,
Oh, very
geez,
cool.
it's been 2 years ago. They won,
Neat.
which was great. It'll be neat if they ever get operational.
Hmm.
Massachusetts Cannabis Advisory Board probably also supports rescheduling, as Massachusetts has legalized it.
Yeah,
Veterans Initiative 22 probably also supports rescheduling.
I hope so.
Then there is the Doc app, DBA, My
What
Florida
the
Green.
fuck? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That's new to me.
Us-
Somebody's yeah, go ahead.
well,
Sorry.
there's a cottage industry of
Yeah.
doctors writing recommendations because they can't
Hmm.
write scripts
Good point.
recommending medical cannabis, especially in Florida, as you need your card to be able to go to the dispensary. And so that means you have to go see a doctor.
Yeah, no, that's true. I forget about the different facets that, and again, rescheduling will just fundamentally create that ball where if you're sick, it's still an option, right? This is not a 100%. We want to get to the point where like aspirin is at, where I don't have to worry about showing my ID or anything.
Aspirin
Uh,
doesn't get you high. And so
what about
the best
NyQuil?
we can do is okay, NyQuil or Sudafed, something
There
like
you go.
that. But then,
Benadryl, dude.
or to a certain extent, because then with beer, you have the ability to get carded. And you're not allowed to buy it and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. And then you have packaging and labeling and recall. But moving on, then there's Commonwealth Project. Not sure exactly what the Commonwealth Project is. And the
Oh, let's
Commonwealth
Google that.
Project suggests that it's an advocacy group, perhaps of some type, but they
Commonwealth.
were granted the ability to appear. Then there's St. Michael's College, Ari
What?
Krishenbaum, a professor of psychology, Cannabis Public Policy Consulting. I'm not sure. If we go to Cannabis Public Policy Consulting, is this one support or oppose? I could see why the judge was a little upset, going, I can't tell heads or tails about what the heck I'm supposed to have a hearing on December 2nd. And
Yeah.
the DEA did that on purpose so that it would delay. So this
Hmm.
might take longer because the DEA just don't care. And then if Donald Trump wins, Project 2025 probably also don't care.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
and that's the unfortunate thing is that's when you lose the leadership. If that's what the other side offers. That's what the Trump side offers. That's what Trump offers is like this self-interest type governance, which is not bueno. As we speak, just recently, besides the Biden stuff that where the rescheduling ball rolling, the FDA had that conversation where they listed they actually talked about the endocannabinoid system, right? They're trying to all these different facets of what do we say, the executive branch?
Hmm.
Or
Yeah,
yeah,
they're in the
so
executive. Yeah.
yeah, so the FDA, the judicial side of things, like these are internal people going, you know what, we better come out with some results to free prisoners and stop prisoners. Right. That's the other in part of this. Stop arresting people, but to actually have a path into business if you want to do this type of thing for life. Like working sucks, folks. Like that's just a given. So there is no quick bank in this side of things unless it's the hemp market, right? There's this shady non-regulated, non-protecting user guarantees, which if the cuckoo for bananas administration takes over, they don't have to worry about your healthcare. Why? Because that costs money for recalls. It costs money for this. Is all there's easy ways to do business, but there's also good ways, right? And that's what we hope to be a part of is knowing our little checks and balances and providing good product, right? When we get our store going, all of this business bullshit is about your reputation and what your knowledge base is. So I think we're going to offer that, but there is no guarantees in the hat market right now, right?
But there's also no barriers to entry. And so you
Yeah.
can sell it at a gas station. But moving on, there's
Hmm.
the National Drug and Alcohol Screening Association, Joe McGuire. I
Yeah.
wonder if they are opposed. I would say they're probably opposed. And then
That's
the
the
next
thing.
one we definitely know is opposed.
Mm.
Sam, smart approaches to marijuana. They're definitely opposed. And again, how do they have standing, right? The National Drug and
Yeah.
Alcohol Screening Association. If it's rescheduled, don't you still have to screen for marijuana? Like, how does that hurt you? Now, with smart approaches to marijuana, if it's rescheduled, do they no longer get issued court ordered mandatory rehab? And so your rehab facilities, they suffer a profit loss. Does that count as adversely impacted? I'm not sure. And then there's
Okay.
the International Academy on the Science and Impact of Cannabis. Boy, that
Yeah.
that
Huh.
almost sounds as suspect as Sam. I wonder what that like. You're reading through this, and it's what group even is that? I understand what normal is.
But that's part of the problem with Sam being like, even as a younger activist, when Kevin Sabat was the original part of it, you want to give everybody a chance, right? MPP was another one that came out at the same time. And I was like, all right, yay, team. They're like, yeah, we don't want big marijuana. They gaslight you in a policy. Like they're
Mhm.
gaslighting in a policy that is not good for the average consumer. And that's kind of like there's this whole part of the population that just, what do they call it, the sheeple? But no, there's just like a way to do things. And if you hinder more people than not, there's also hindering progress with that, right? Like how many could been the cure for cancer kids had to get arrested and whatnot?
Okay, next we have the international. Nope, that we already said that. Cannabis industry victims educating litigators. Look at this guy. This guy's so old. He's a senior counsel and he's got an AOL.com email address. So I'm
That's
not
funny.
saying email David Evans Sr., but you could probably start the with boomer and then question mark. Yeah, he's probably up there if he's got an
That's
AOL.com
pretty good.
email address. Same
That's
with
definitely negative.
Kenneth Finn. He's a medical doctor and he's got a .net email handle. There we go. SpringsRehab.net. I wonder if Springs Rehab Net gets money from people that are sentenced to rehab because they get in trouble with the law and marijuana. Maybe.
Self-interest involved in politics?
No.
No.
I found an article from the WyomingTruth.com, well, .org. Let's be honest. It says Kenneth Finn urges states to proceed with caution in legalizing to avoid unintended health consequences. A pain medicine specialist in private practice in Colorado Springs, and he does not like marijuana.
Hmm.
And then maybe it's because he has a rehab facility, or maybe it's because he sells opioids.
Right. Well, it's kind of like DeSantis and hemp. Come on.
Oh yeah, that is the dumbest shit ever. Like where you see DeSantis like saying, "Oh, it's gonna smell so bad," and you're like, "Ron, that THCA pre-roll is a joint. You know that, right?" Well, at least they aren't being sponsored by the Democrats.
And again, you're not looking out for your consumer, your average citizen. Looking at the silly ass that one against marijuana victims. They literally have a website that says like these different categories. One is abused elders. Elders may be abused by marijuana users. Like all these cuckoo cabanas that are like against weed, but there's a lot of cuckoo cabanas that are pro weed too, right? There's a lot of like conspiracy theorists and shit, but it'll be interesting to watch the live though when they thin the herd, right? To see who has a stance.
Yes, yes, it will be. And next we have the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board.
Mm.
How are they going to be negatively impacted? There'll be more people on the road on weed.
More
But
rules.
yeah, we'll see if they have standing. And then there's Philip Drum from Farm D, Philip Drum at Comcast.net. There you go.
What? See,
Exactly. He's a pharmacist. It sounds like University of California, Kaiser Permanente. Not sure if he likes weed or not. Oh, there it is. Marijuana's impact on driving. And so what the data shows, and that might be what he is. How an
anti.
inpatient pharmacy consultant in National California, how marijuana promoters bypass the law and public good by Philip Drum. And so he's definitely against it. He's definitely against it. And let's see, state of Nebraska, say no more, definitely against it. International associations of the chiefs of police. We need marijuana to be illegal so we can keep arresting riffraff.
Seriously.
Drug Enforcement Association of Federal Narcotics Agents, DEA FNA.
At rocketmail.com.
Yep.
What
And
the
so you
fuck?
know they are against it. American
Oh,
College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine, the ACOM.
okay.
I'm not sure if they are against it or not.
Seems
Probably against it, I would
right.
say. And then Community of Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, definitely against it. Tennessee Bureau of Investigations,
Huh.
probably against it. And finally,
Wow.
the National Sheriff's Association, probably also against it.
Should they? Should the police and also like a state representative have a say in it? You know what I mean? Just
Are
something they need
they
to.
a person who is adversely affected or aggrieved by the proposed rulemaking meeting the regulatory criteria? I would say that all law enforcement agencies aren't, because their job is to enforce the law.
Yeah.
They can't be
Apparently.
negatively impacted when the law changes. Their job is not to change the law, it's to enforce it. And so it'll be interesting to see if, for example, the state of Nebraska is allowed to have standing. We'll
Mm,
see.
yeah. What's the argument for rehab? It's like, oh, I see a lot of. I don't want to see any more cases. That's bullshit. Of course, you want to see more cases. That pays your bills, but
Yeah, like Sam, like our revenues will go down. Okay. I can see you may be adversely impacted by the rule change.
that's
Now,
a.
but what about all it wasn't any real cannabis companies on there at all. The
Mm,
NCIA is there. Hemp for Victory is there. I can see Hemp for Victory. Oh, they could be negatively impacted because they're trying to sell Diet Coke weed. I don't know
well,
though. It'll be really interesting.
The Village Farm ones, again, another could be.
That's the one from Canada, I think.
Oh shit. Okay, never mind. Wow. And again, why? Because they want a bigger market in the American market. They could be representing,
Yeah.
what do you call it, rights, but
Mhm.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see live. I thought there was a. I'm ashamed it's only 25 people. Like I thought there'd be
Well,
more.
it's 25 for right now. We'll see how many make it through the wicket.
Well,
Because
right.
on December 2nd, while it will be a live stream, by November 12th, they have to submit their detailed information about why they should be there. And on December 2nd, it is a preliminary hearing. No evidence or testimony will be presented. Instead, they will discuss scheduling and availability for formal testimony in early 2025, and then also ensure that they are a qualified interested person because they are adversely affected or aggravated by the proposed rule change, meeting the regulatory criteria.
So this is not at least expanding, but getting thin out. Like this is again part of the process. The parliamentary, they don't want to have an 8-hour conference. Probably why there's not more participants with 25. So very random though how they
Most of them
name.
seem like they are opposed. Most of
Yeah.
them don't seem like they're in favor. But
Hmm.
then would somebody who is in favor be able to be a interested person under the rules? Would a government or law enforcement be able to be an interested person under the rules? We'll find out on November 12th. And then don't forget to tune in for a live stream on December 2nd. It will not be evidentiary. It may be really boring. It might be like, I'm sorry, counsel, I'm busy on that date. Can we reschedule for 2 weeks after that date? Oh no, the court's got some stuff on that. And that really might be what December 2nd is. But stay tuned, everybody. We're going to continue to unpack these and do our deep dives, and we will return with our regularly scheduled Cannabis Legalization News podcast next weekend. If you enjoyed this video and you like our content, don't forget to like it, subscribe, and leave us some comments.